Hi everyone, welcome to Outgrow's Market of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co. And for this month, we're going to interview Nicholas Bayerle, who is the CEO of Billion Dollar Body. Thanks for joining us, Nicholas.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you for creating a platform for people to be able to get educated. I'm sure we'll get into it. I was 60 pounds overweight. And the reason I didn't know how to lose it was because I didn't have anyone that had a show like this or a Facebook ad or a YouTube video that could show me what to do. So thank you for creating a space to get people equipped with the right information and probably the right accountability to be able to apply the information they know.
Thanks. So we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. Try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only, okay?
I'll try.
Okay. How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
45 minutes,
Okay. How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
7.5.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey.
Mark.
Okay. The first movie that comes to your mind when I say the word ambition.
Uh, Taken.
Oh, wow. The biggest mistake of your career.
Not trying hard enough.
hmm Giving presents or getting presents.
Giving presents.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
1.25.
Okay. The most valuable skill you've learned in life.
Communication.
Okay, fill in the blank. An upcoming influencer marketing trend is blank.
Digital marketing.
Okay, and finally, your favorite Tiger King character.
Oh, definitely the Tiger King himself.
Okay, that's the end of the rapid fire round. We're going to go on to the bigger questions. The first one is, what do you think about the fitness influencer culture of today?
I think it's too much focused on being who people want to be like rather than being who they're just like. I feel like those are two great ways to be able to pull in an audience. And right now, it's all about your body's your billboard. You just have to be perfect. You have to look really good. And it's all keeping up with the Joneses, who has the biggest following that can have the cheapest product, rather than relating with the market, which I think is what's going to stand out right now, is getting a result, but also going back and saying, hey, I'm just like you. And so going back to the phase of, I lost the weight. I struggled as well. I still struggle to go to the gym. I still struggle to eat well, rather than just showing, hey, I have the results that you want. It's like saying, I have $1 million, come buy from me. And people think that's great, but I don't know if I can do that. Same thing happens when you're steroided up with an 8 pack. They don't think they can do it.
Mm. And so you think it has to be personalized to each individual instead of like just being a particular standard everyone has to be held up to?
Well, I believe that we should just market not just acting like everyone's perfect in the fitness industry and
Mm.
act like everything's easy for them. And because they're really fit, everyone should buy from them or learn from them, because that's not what's working, because it's not communicating. You're someone that people want to be like, they want to be fit, yet they're not communicating the marketing message of we're just alike. We just make different decisions and we have different skill sets. And I believe that's the problem. I mean, that's why I was 150 pounds, not shredded. I had lost 60 pounds, yet I wasn't the Mr. Olympia with 50 certifications. Yet I was able to charge $7,500 to be able to work with a client, because they knew that I struggled internally with the same emotions and problems that they did. And I overcame it in a way that they thought was possible for them as well, rather than just being this fit guy that was always fit, an athlete doing triathlons. And they're just like, that's amazing that you can do that, but I can't do that. You have to have two sides of the coin: who they want to be like, which means you can't just be an overweight, out of shape health instructor. So you have to have gotten the result yourself, but also, how are you marketing that you're just like them as well, so that they feel like they can actually apply the things that you teach and get results like you did as well?
So they need to be able to reach you in some, like you have to be human enough for them to be able to be like you, while at the same time also an influencer. So it has to be a balance of those two.
Oh, yeah, you can't. Yeah, you never want to listen to the person who knows all the knowledge but has none of the results. That's the
Mm.
last person you want to listen to. That's almost as bad as someone who has no results that tells you not to do everything. Those are pretty bad people to listen to.
Hmm. So, which social media platform has contributed most to your journey in the big billion body industry?
Facebook for sure, mostly because I'm all about creating community. People will come to your business because they want a specific result, a tangible outcome. They want the product, they want the service, they want the result. Yet, what I found is that our lifetime value of a customer has gone up based on creating a community where they stay for the connections that they have. And they're willing to invest in either a membership site or continue to invest in supplements because of the way that they make them feel, or maybe a coaching program because of the community and the connections that they get along with it that give them extra value. And the last thing that you want to have is a tangible reason why they should stay, which is like a supplement they can't live without, or they build a program on top of something. Like, you want to have something that keeps them locked in, that it's harder for them to quit your program than it is for them to just continue to pay. I mean, that's what Netflix, they find that perfect price point. So for me, Facebook, in short, because of the Facebook groups, so that I can continue to nurture the community and have them connect with each other. Whereas, where can you do that on any other platform besides a custom built platform? But they're already on Facebook. So I don't need to show them how to continue to open up this brand new app called the BDB app. All I have to do is create that community inside of an app that they already open 75 times a day.
And what is one thing that you've seen that keeps them always attracted to the company?
There's a few things. Number one
Mm.
is the mission and vision that we have. I teach mission and vision because I truly believe that not everyone out there has their own vision or has their own mission yet, or else we wouldn't have people that maybe were employees for these companies. There's some people that come into submission, not submission like get on your knees and sacrifice your life. Submission meaning I'm going to come and contribute to your mission. So when you have a big enough mission and vision inside of your company, even the people that play football that sit on the bench, they don't play a game. But if their team wins the championship or wins the Super Bowl, they still get a Super Bowl ring. People love being a part of a company that's going somewhere, that's making an impact, and can communicate that with confidence. And they want to jump on that winning team. So, number one, they stay for that. The second thing is we're always creating products and services based on the need or the problem of the people in that community that are going after that mission and vision. And the last thing that I believe people love about what we do is that we have a way to give back. So, what we do is we look for ways that we can partner with companies to solve the problems that our company solves before it ever becomes a problem. Meaning, we invest in the children. We sponsored 43,000 kids in America alone to go to after school programs and assemblies, and then to camps with professional athletes to be able to get leadership and taught how to become what we call a three-dimensional businessman, which is prospering in health, wealth, and relationships, having success without sacrifice. So, those three things together, those three chords, it's really tough to break them rather than just having a one dimensional business of transactional products and services, or a company that promises the world of vision and mission that don't deliver anything, and not just a nonprofit that gives back that doesn't also have a product or service. We compile all three of those things together. And I believe that's what gets the right type of people in our community.
That sounds really great. Could you tell us more about the after school program that you're talking about?
Yeah, so the after school programs that we've invested in have been with the Winning Edge, and we partnered specifically with an NFL Super Bowl champion with the Patriots, Devin Wyman. And Devin's one of the best speakers I've ever heard. So when I had him actually come out to one of our live events, I wanted to support the nonprofit. So we raised money for the nonprofit, and we took a portion of everything that we made and we invested into that nonprofit. And then he went out and he would go and travel and speak and do these huge assemblies where kids would write on notes that they were going to commit suicide, or they had a kill list, or they gave up weapons that they actually had at the schools. They confessed things that had been happening in their home and their life that they were able to help out and intervene with. And then they bring all those notes back to our live events when we have them, and share them with the different people and inspire them to give again. So that NFL Super Bowl champion send them out to the schools. After they go to the schools, they then try to get them into the camps. And it's one of the only nonprofits here that actually pays for the actual school meeting. They're not making the schools pay for the meeting. So the cool thing is they've got it down to almost about $1 per kid. So if someone were to invest $10, they'd be able to help get 10 kids to go to the assemblies at the schools to be able to hear from an amazing speaker that inspires them to think outside the box inside of their life.
That sounds really great. What is the one thing you would like to say, like, on the other hand, to all struggling entrepreneurs?
Quit. Why are you struggling? Like, how much money do you make in your job? Because if you're struggling, I'm assuming that you're not full time in business. But let's say you are. What are you doing with your time? What's the deal? Have you not invested in a mentor or a coach? Is that the problem because you don't have the money to? Well, it's costing you a lot of money not to. So you should probably go listen to someone or get some accountability from someone that's going to put the fire underneath you. Let's say you're working a job and you also have a business and you're struggling. Well, how many hours is that job? And ask yourself this question: if you had that extra 80 hours or 120 hours to work on your business, do you think you could replace the income of the job? And if not, then shut down the business. There's something wrong. There's a problem. It's one thing to be distracted with your time, it's another thing to not have a viable income generator or um, revenue generator inside of the company. That's an issue. If you even put in 120 hours and you can't produce the $7,000 of profit or whatever it is to replace the job income, then there's an issue with the business. If it's a time issue, you're wasting time. It's time to figure out, why are you wasting the time? Maybe you don't really want to do this thing. Maybe you don't really want to live this life. And the last thing that I would have is, there's a quote from all these superhero movies that say, with great power comes great responsibility. I failed my first business. I ended up driving my wife and I into debt. I went after a few passions, didn't do well. I had to clean carpets for 2.5 years. Wasn't really an entrepreneur at that point. Always thought I was going to be, but I was failing. And I remember just getting to the point where I was just hoping that somehow I would get invited on a big podcast like this, or that someone would invite me on a radio show, or Oprah would get me on, or my wife would get an interview and we'd blow up and we'd win the lottery or something like this. I was just hoping that something outside of myself would change my situation. And I was dumping my carpet cleaning van, making $21,000 a year, cleaning carpets full time. And I just thought, what if I actually said, if it's meant to be, it's up to me? Like, if I actually looked at all my goals on my goal sheet and my to-do list, and I said, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. What if I took 100% responsibility? And that's when I realized, it's not with great power comes great responsibility. It's when you take great responsibility for your life that you gain great power, because you're no longer waiting for something outside of yourself to change your situation, which actually decreases anxiety in your life because you can actually take hold of the transformation yourself. So I would take 100% responsibility. Write out, what are the things you want to accomplish? What are your goals list? And start asking yourself, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. What would it look like to take responsibility for this? Doesn't mean you have to do the actions, but taking responsibility for the outcome. And what would it look like if you did that? And do that every single day. Write them down for an entire year and see what happens. I say quit because most people would say, well, I don't want to quit. This is what I want to do. I would say to them, great. That's why I said quit, just to challenge you and see if you really wanted to do this thing. If you thought quit and you should really quit, well, then you probably should, because if I can get you to quit entrepreneurship that easy, then definitely the trials and tribulations of building a business would have got you to quit in a year or 5 years.
That's interesting. So, what would you have to say for I guess the fitness industry is one of the industries that have been impacted really badly by the coronavirus. How did your company deal with that? And what would you have to say to those struggling entrepreneurs? Because I guess they're not in the best of times.
Yeah. So, anyone who's listening right now, think of your industry. Think of someone in your industry right now that's failing, and everyone can find that person that just, no matter what they do, they don't make anything work. The second thing is to think of someone in your industry right now that's succeeding, massively killing it, doing amazing. What's the difference between those two people? Is it a lack of opportunity or a lack of education? Because there's opportunity. If one person's in the same city as someone else, one person's failing, the other person's succeeding, the opportunity is exactly the same for both of them. There's the same amount of people that want to buy things. And so it's interesting to look at, when my dad, who owned a carpet cleaning business in 2007, 2008, in 2009, he claimed bankruptcy. While there were other carpet cleaning businesses that ended up ascending and becoming 7-figure, 8-figure companies. So it's not that it was hard for the industry, it was hard for some people. But there was the same amount of customers readily available for the guy who was succeeding as my dad at the time. Yet my dad didn't know how to make the pivots and the transitions necessary to be able to tap into that market. And so, in a time like today, one of the biggest things to do is to not look at, oh, can I just see if things will go back to how they were? So if you have a brick and mortar business that's high volume, well, that's probably not going to work unless you just decide you're going to do whatever you want, which is also your right if you live in America. In the other country, you're actually not born with rights. But in America, you're actually born with rights no matter what, as long as you're born inside of America. So, uh, with that, you can choose to do whatever you want. Yet, most likely, if you're having in person, there's going to be people that are afraid to come in, blah, blah, blah. We've never built our business on in person training. So, when it came to people being at home, it's like, hey, you probably want accountability and you're not paying for all these other services and gas right now to be able to drive to the gym. So, you can hire a coach, you can hire a trainer, you can at home gym equipment is not failing right now or struggling. Online health and fitness coaches are not failing or struggling right now. Supplements are not failing or struggling right now. This was the biggest Black Friday on the history of the planet this year. People shopping at home. And so there's lots of restaurants, gym owners, etc., that are struggling right now, while there's others that are not. I would start looking at why are the people that are not struggling? And what are they doing? How are they marketing? How are they getting attention? How are they nurturing the customer? How are they selling? What's their sales process? What are they selling? What are the things that they're actually making? There's actually an amazing restaurant called by the owner of Adam Perry Long. I forget the actual name of the restaurant. They were a pretty high end restaurant in LA. LA is one of the most strict places right now to live. San Francisco is maybe a little bit worse. And I just remember as soon as things started to lock down, they couldn't have people eat inside. And this relates to any gym or in person out there. I saw right away they created these menus that were very limited where they'd make these economically available foods, meaning like $16, not $100 or $70. And they showcase like them making this huge amount of food for this particular meal of the day. And so they limited the options. They made it just like one option that you could choose. And they made it super gourmet. They marketed it amazing. And then they would just sell out of it every single day. They were someone who pivoted. They didn't just close the doors and wait for things to go back to normal. And so the number one thing right now, one for me, this is our best year in business. Now I host a lot of live events. So I had to make some big pivots. I thought this would be the first year we weren't going to grow. But because of those pivots, we were able to do, even in one event, we did over $500,000 from the living room in my house through just setting up a video camera and doing a virtual event. And every single day I got off the training at 6:30 p.m. I ate dinner and got in bed by 8:30. I didn't even have to talk to anyone. So technically that was more profitable and took less time, didn't take travel, and I was hanging out with my son the entire time. So I'd look at the ways to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, not sit in the valley of the shadow of death and wait for it to pass. Walk through it and look for people that are winning. Start modeling them, not hunkering down, because we'll end up just doing the same things we've always done.
That's a great story. So basically, the year has actually been an exciting opportunity for you. Like, in the sense, you've taken it and you've ridden it in the stride instead of actually being cowed down by it. That's a great
Yeah,
journey. Is there? Yeah, go ahead.
our online version of our company grew. We built systems around that where we didn't even need to do the live events. Then we did the live events, but we did them virtually. And then that did really, really well. I believe we had 90 attendees at $600 average. And out of all of those 90 attendees, we had 34 of them invest $18,000.
That's amazing. That sounds really great. So I guess like not just this year, but just tell me about your whole journey then. What made you get into this in the first place? What inspired you to like do all of this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my dad was a business owner, as I had talked about. So was my uncle, and they really got impacted by 2008. And
Mhm.
for me growing up, it was not popular to own a business. Like it wasn't cool that my dad had a business. It wasn't something that was exciting. Yet my dad taught me something that money follows value. And value is simply just solving problems for people, bigger, smaller, more of them. If you solve them, they'll pay money for it. So the first way I learned that was through doing landscaping, cutting grass, pulling weeds, etc. I saved up a few $1,000s, but I still didn't have this want to build and expand the business. I had to get more equipment, more people, and I just cashed out on all of it. I was just like, nope, I'm keeping the money. I'm done working. And then all of a sudden, I got more responsibilities right around when I was 19 years old. I got a girlfriend, and then I got married at 20. And so it was right around that time that I was like, what can I do? Because I don't want to be away from my wife. What's the chances that we're going to work the same schedule at the same place? There's no way. So we thought, what's the way we could live the life that we want? And that was through creating a business. I thought I was going to create a cafe. I thought that I was going to be a professional athlete. I thought all these different things. We ended up getting into network marketing. I had no clue that network marketing had a good or bad stigma. I was just like, this is amazing. How cool is this? I could buy this thing and start slinging product right away. And that actually provided for our first year of marriage until we failed. Mostly the company failed. The company dropped from $650 million in sales in just 1 year to a few $1 million. It was wild. And we went down with it. And I just thought, man, I'm done with this. Like, I went and carpet cleaned for 2.5 years. And it was in that process that I was like, man, I'm not providing for my wife. I'm not able to do this. What's the one thing I had done with my life? And I had lost 60 pounds. That's why I got in the network marketing company, is they sold health products. So I didn't know at the time that you could bring in experts, much like you're doing right now. I'm the one doing the majority of the talking, and you're bringing in someone that can serve people with the knowledge that they have. I do that now. That's the big part of what I do. The other side is the guru, the person that's done it, and then they show you the blueprint of exactly how they did it. That's not the business I'm in today, but that was the business I was in then. I had lost the 60 pounds, and I started thinking, if that's what I've done, that's all I can sell. So I started putting together, all right, I'm going to help men that were just like me lose 40 to 60 pounds on average. And so that's how I started marketing it. I failed 3 years. I never made more than $3,000 in a month. Never, which legitimately was every single year the company either losing money or breaking even. That was it. Never drew a paycheck for those 3 years. And that's when I discovered this other side of, it's not just being your body's your billboard, like I was talking about earlier. I got quoted for turning your mess into your message. I never told people that I was overweight or why I was overweight or showed the pictures. So I actually got invited to speak at an event of 40 people. I invested $5,000 to be there, which was all the money on my credit card while I was still carpet cleaning. But they wanted me to teach on health. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my shot. I thought, I'm going to tell them why I was overweight, that I was overweight, and then I'm going to teach them how they can goal set properly for their health and leave there with a clear plan. So I go up there, I tell my story about my dad and I having a falling out, and I gained 60 pounds and I failed in school because of it and all these different things. And then how I got my life transformed by one kid that helped me lose 60 pounds. And then I hired the trainers, and then I starved myself. And then I found a way that was sustainable. So during that story, I started crying, like outrageously crying, because I'd never shared those emotions before about how I became overweight and how insecure I was. And I remember getting to the point where I was so mad because I had my wife come up and help me finish speaking. I didn't give them any value. I didn't feel like I helped them. And still, almost 6 years later now, they still talk about that one moment bringing the entire event together. They still talk about that one moment where I started crying. And anytime anyone cries in that environment, they talk about that one spot to this day. And afterwards, I had 10 people out of the 40 people that were there reach out to me and say, I want to buy from you. How can I learn from you? How can I lose weight? And I said, it's $3,600 and I'll coach you for 6 months. And I ended up selling like $27,000. 9 out of 10 people bought. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I got this. Like this is insane. I was still afraid to fail, but I tapped into this. I started telling my story. I started telling how I had failed. And even when I was with these people that were buff and huge and shredded and they had $37 products, people connected more with me because they found themselves in my story. And they said, man, I trust this guy because he's just like me and he was able to overcome it. And so instead of investing $37 with the fit guy, they were investing $5,000 with the guy that was average, but had a story that they connected to that overcame it. And I was further along than they were. And that's what really launched our business. After a couple of years of that, in 2016, we launched the $1 Billion Brotherhood, which was taking the 600 clients that we had and creating a community that we now call the Brotherhood, which is a group of men that own businesses. That's all we ever worked with, and serving them in health, wealth, and relationships. Because I realized that health was just a small piece of what they were going through. So instead of like most companies who have a target market and they have a way that they serve that target market with all these different products, or one product to one market, for us, we have one person, the man who owns a business, and we serve them in health, wealth, and relationships. So we bring in relationship teachers, health teachers, and business teachers to create what we call a three-dimensional businessman. And that's where our business took off. 2016, we launched that. 2017, June, we had our first $100,000 month. So it was a rapid growth. In 2016, May was the last carpet that I cleaned, where I was on average making about $1,200 to $1,500 a month. So it would have taken me 5 years of carpet cleaning to make what we made in one day in June of 2017, just 1 year later.
Wow, that's a great journey. So it makes me wonder though that you entered this fitness influencer, I would say, market a little, I don't know whether you'd call it early or middle or late, but it's definitely not late. But now we've seen like a huge explosion, at least like in the past few years, of
Mhm.
fitness influencers on Instagram. So what do you have to say about the rise and fall of fitness influencer brands on Instagram? And this is not just true of fitness influencers, because we're seeing it of fashion, we're seeing it of, like, companies go into huge revenue, influencers making a huge amount of revenue that rivals, established brands, and but then also them falling. So do you have something to say about that?
Yeah, building that brand is the biggest thing. A lot of these fitness influencers, they all look the same. So it's all white noise. So what's the thing that's going to make you different and stand out? And how can you tap into that more? And I'm not saying just being yourself, because sometimes being yourself, no one cares, but being your best self. How can you continue to improve and grow and keep showing up with a new flair and trying new things out? It's very interesting. I remember with clothes, I was someone who wore very boring clothes for a long time. And I hired someone to come and shop with me to help me stand out and represent my brand with the clothes I wore. My biggest fear was that I was going to be someone that I wasn't. But it's kind of like not ever trying a food and saying you don't like it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like I never tried it. And so it was awkward at first. But when you look at Superman or Batman or Spider-Man, do you think they actually ever felt comfortable in their suit the first time they wore it? Probably not. And do they wear it every single time they go to dinner or they go to lunch? No. They have times where they wear the suit and times where they wear gym clothes and times where they wear this. And the reason I say that is because it pressured me to think outside the box, to grow as a person, to try things out and see if that was a piece of who I was and the best self that I was. And I believe that's one of the biggest things. One of the best people I've seen do it is Lady Boss and Kino Body. Kino Body, which is Greg O'Gallagher on Instagram. If you check him out, he doesn't look like everyone else. He doesn't talk like everyone else. He has his own look and feel, his own brand, his own way of doing things, his own way of training. And you'll find bits and pieces of people that are just like him. Yet he has his own feel and brand. He's not just the same old person. He has things that make him stand out. And that's why I've even personally hired him as a coach for me. Lady Boss as well. They're the fourth fastest growing company in America and number one B2C. And they're my best friends. And they're phenomenal because they meet people where they're at. They are likable. They speak to people as if they're on the same level, which they are because we're all just people. While everyone else has the same looking bio, the same exact looking vegan, blah, 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 with that interesting text, and they have the same exact profile picture and the same exact type of pictures. And though they get lots of likes, nobody loves them. And if you want to be loved, you have to be okay being hated. If you're liked by everybody, you're loved by nobody. If you take no stands, you'll never get customers or clients that stay forever. So figure out, what do you stand for? What do you stand against? How can you speak that loudly? How can you not go for likes, but actually get people that are diehard fans of what you talk about because you actually stand for what you believe in the health and fitness industry? How do you tell your story because it's uniquely yours, just like your fingerprint? How do you tell your story? Because that will be the thing that cuts through the noise in a place where everyone's just posting their workouts every single day or posting their body every single day that people look at, but is it making people invest? That's the question. So figure out, how can you do that? And again, it comes down to find the few people that are doing it well and try to learn some of the things that you can do. There's a quote that's amazing. First, you learn how to play other people's music before you learn how to write your own.
Hmm.
With every instrument, you learn what genre you like. You then start learning other people's music. And then it's time to graduate to writing your own music. Yet it's in that progression that we start out. Start looking at people that are where you want to be. Start modeling the things that they're doing and then make it your own.
Wow, a lot of things you say are like quotable, and I'm just like taking notes here that we can later put on the show notes. But yeah, that was a great answer. One final question that I have for you is, if you could have done things differently in your journey, what would it be like?
So I wouldn't do anything different. Yet I believe some of the things that were the biggest hang up for me was that I was allowing my external world, meaning the things around me, my environment, to dictate my internal world. What's wrong with this is that if you're not already successful, how are you ever supposed to become successful because you view yourself as an unsuccessful person? Rather than taking my internal perspective and having it shape my external world. Meaning that if I were to take someone who's a king, put him into poverty, he'll always rise up to become a king again because it's who he is. It's his identity. When it
That
comes
sounds
to
like
a
the plot of
pauper,
Lion
which would
King.
be,
Yeah,
go ahead.
that sounds like the plot of Lion King as well, right? In a sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
But if I were to take a pauper,
Hmm.
someone who has a poverty mentality, and put them in the place of a kingdom, they're going to reduce it down to poverty again based on the identity of the person. One of my mentors, Yost Jansen's a Navy SEAL, and he rocked my world with this, where he said, your why doesn't matter. When there's books out there that say start with why. Why did he say this? Because there's many people that are smokers that are going to die of smoking that can't quit even though they love their family. They have the biggest why in the world to stay for their family, but they can't quit. But if you want to shift your life, it's changing your identity. Because if you don't identify as a smoker, then you're just not going to smoke. And it's truly our identity that shifts everything. So, one of the things that I would go back and change is that I thought because I was a broke carpet cleaner, man, I didn't have any value to bring the world. I just thought, man, if I was just successful, like I'd be able to break out and be able to help people. Yet, how was I supposed to become successful? I was always a broke carpet cleaner. And then I started getting a vision for my life. I started thinking, in 20 years, if everything went well, what would my life be like? And I started getting confidence in where I was going and having confidence that I was going to get there no matter what. And when I started having that on the inside of me, my internal world started shaping the world around me. Rather than the external world saying, you're a broke carpet cleaner, I knew who I was and I knew where I was going. So I started getting on podcasts with confidence, knowing I know where I'm going to end up. I started getting in speaking engagements and showing up confidently because I knew where I was going. And I didn't allow my future self to mentor me like some people say. I actually physically switched places with my future self. I said, what would my future self do today if he already knew? Another way to say this, man, is if you were to go back 10, 20 years from today and you knew everything you know now and you were able to go back in time, you'd probably be more successful. I did that by going into the future and figuring out who I'm becoming and ripped that person into the now and decided I'm going to create that life. So I stopped viewing myself as the broke carpet cleaner. I started viewing myself as the most successful man on the planet, a great family man, someone who's fulfilled in life, that doesn't care what other people think of him, that's generous with his time and money. And I ripped that person in the now, and that's who I am today.
Wow, that was like really well put. Thanks for that. Well, that's the last question, unless you have any questions. I think that's the end of the interview. Do you have any questions?
Now, that was amazing, man. I appreciate everyone who listened up to this point, and thank you for the platform.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Market of the Month. That was Nicholas Bayerle, who is the CEO of Billion Dollar Body. Thanks for joining us, Nicholas. Do check out their website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Market of the Month. Thanks.